With all the recent starts and stops, in particular as it relates to IVF treatments, many patients are still trying to find a clinic that can get them in and get started. We know so many hopeful parents that are trying to make the most of their time, both in quarantine and within the current situation we're in with this pandemic, in which they can't access fertility treatments necessarily the same way that they used to. I have an incredibly special guest who I'm so delighted to be here, Lauren Haring, who has been a fertility nurse for quite a few years, who turned her passion into a company to help you, hopeful parents to be, with at-home fertility strategies that anyone can take on during these tumultuous times. Lauren, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, hi, Alice. Thank you so much for having me. I really am grateful to be here just to share some ways to boost fertility from within, because there's so much you can do while you're stuck at home right now.
And I think that one of the hardest things about the stuck from home is that most of us put on weight during being stuck from home because we were doing any coping strategy we could, right? Now that it looks like companies are going to kind of a never-ending work from home situation, we're all sort of finding new normals that are going to become permanent normals. And in particular, with the kind of work that you do, you're helping people not just achieve pregnancy, but achieve kind of lifetime health and wellness.
Right. No, absolutely. And that's the key point, is that your fertility health is directly related to your general health and wellness. So creating small changes in various lifestyle habits can make a huge impact on your fertility potential. And so right now, there's no better time to get started.
I agree with that. There's no better time to get started because you do have extra time on your hands, although sometimes it doesn't feel like you do. But without having to commute anywhere, with having more at home time where you're less likely to go to social events, most people still aren't going to the movies. Now does seem to be a great time. Now, when you get started with people, why don't you first kind of explain to us how you ideally are going to work with either an individual or a couple? What does that actually kind of look like?
Yeah, well, so for everyone out there, while things are still so unsettled, it's really important to focus on what you do have control over. And so I do think that basically the first thing that I'm going to do with anybody, whether it's a woman by herself, a man by himself, or a couple together, we're going to talk about your history. And it's not like a 3-page history. We're going to go through in-depth, very, very comprehensive, detailed history for all areas of your life, and then break it up into small, manageable, different pieces so that we can focus on one area at a time and make these positive changes to build healthy habits.
And it sounds like you could pretty much work with anybody. So what is it about fertility that really drew you in? Because what you do really is so applicable to anyone. What's it about fertility in particular that has you so passionate about this field?
Wow. Well, there's actually a few different reasons. The first, what drew me in was actually when I was in nursing school, I became an egg donor, an anonymous egg donor. And after my first cycle, I loved what I did so much. I loved the nurse that I worked with. I said, I want to be you. And I was teaching my instructors all about it because it was definitely not something that we learn in nursing school, or at least back then. Hopefully now the curriculum has a bit more included on this subject, but that was my first sort of dipping my toe in the water, and I loved it. And I just immediately went straight from nursing school to a fertility clinic, and I was there for I was there for 15 years, and then still kind of try to keep in touch because it's hard to let go of my family there. But I was in so many different roles, and throughout my career there, I just noticed that there was this little bit of a gap, at least where I was, that because we were so good at doing the clinical part of fertility treatments, and because we were just focusing so much on making sure that, that part was as seamless as possible and they had as much support, there still was this little bit missing that was such an important part of your whole fertility. And so, that's why I sort of decided that I think I can help people a little bit more. And I left the clinic and started in 2019 Embrace Fertility so I could help people with these lifestyle modifications so they can do it at home, whether they're trying on their own or with fertility treatment, because it can help in both arenas. And so, I just wanted to kind of bridge that gap and be there to help you and provide even more support.
That's incredible. I feel like anytime we meet someone who is in the fertility field, we all have a personal connection to it like that. And I just want to commend you, because being a donor is certainly such an incredible gift. And I have a donor conceived son from a sperm donor. And I hope one day that I could at least write a thank you note. I only have the exact child that I have because that DNA was provided from the sperm donor. And it's something that is never lost on me. I also find that those of us who have landed in the fertility field can't think of doing anything else in our life. There's so much joy we find in helping other people achieve that dream of family.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the thing. I mean, I donated many times after my initial, and
Wow.
I have to say the notes that I got from the, potential parents, it was just so heartfelt. And even then I was like, maybe it would make them feel good if I wrote a note. So, just some kind of little encouragement. It's such a nice thing to do to support somebody, even if you don't know them. You've both got
That's right.
and it's such an important, monumental thing that, kindness goes even one step further there.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. Now, let's talk about that word lifestyle for a moment, because I think it's a loaded word sometimes. It can cover a lot of different things. So what pockets of lifestyle do you go deep on with the people that you're working with? Is it nutrition? Is it exercise? Is it a particular meal plan? Is it sleep quality? What are some of those things that you actually dive into?
Well, so I call them wellness pathways. Basically, we kind of take it into bite-sized pieces and work on the different pathways that I think help increase fertility potential from within. So that's going to be things like nutrition and hydration. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not going to give you, a meal plan, but we can talk about the ways that you can improve your diet and help to boost that fertility potential, how to increase, certain foods to make you have the optimal, vitamins, minerals, antioxidants to protect your sperm and eggs. Apart from the nutrition and hydration, we do talk about, of course, physical movement, trying to keep in line the restorative movement and how important that is. I don't know, not everybody knows what restorative movement is when I talk to them. And, it's something that's so important because instead of that all out vigorous, kickboxing boot camp, it's, something that is going to calm and balance the hormones, but still give you, some consistent activities. So things like yoga, which of course you can do certain yogas that make you sweat a ton, like a kickboxing class, but, yoga, going for walks, I'm going to say it too, sex, don't laugh. It's so important to have sex just for fun, not just to let's make a baby. And, whether somebody has a partner or not, even finding self-release to get that endorphin release and self-connection, it's really something that's vital. So we talk about ways to connect with yourself, ways to manage stress better in your, relationships and with yourself. Because that's, one of the other areas that, as is so hard for patients. They're just beating themselves up left, right, and sideways.
Well, it's hard to feel attractive and sensual when you're doing injections, when you're bloated, when you already don't feel optimal, when you feel like your body's failing you. I think that's an area that, yes, within the clinical care context, we don't really have a tool set, to support patients through that part of it. And it is really tough. I remember giving a talk years ago, and I talked about how I felt like my body was so disconnected from myself. It felt like it was 3 miles away. My vagina, my clit, like the whole thing, Lauren, just felt like it was 3 miles down the street. And it was while I was doing the injections and getting ready for my frozen embryo transfer, it almost was a numbing. And I would laugh about it, but by the same token, and I'm a single mom by choice, when you're in a relationship, that can be taxing. It's hard for partners to understand that part, because they're not going through it. They're not walking in those shoes. And so sometimes it just is helpful to discuss that with somebody like you that has seen all sides of it. You've been able to counsel not just the individual going through it, but also the partner that's kind of bearing witness to them going through it.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And there's so many other areas that, are equally important that also don't get talked about a lot. Things like environmental toxins and sleep care. They're so crucial to this whole picture of, fertility health that, it's something that I do think is extremely important to include so we can help find healthy ways. I'm a horrible sleep pattern right now. This is something I know and it's something I need to work on, but luckily I'm not trying to get pregnant right now. So for my general health, I need to improve it, but same thing goes. If you're in this horrible pattern because COVID has just thrown so many things out of whack, it's really important to focus on that and get yourself back into a good routine.
Sure. We talk about the use of melatonin a lot because of that, because people also aren't getting the same sunlight, sort of the melatonin cortisol connection, where then your cortisol rises too early and people might wake up at 3, 4 in the morning and not be able to get back to sleep. So we've talked a lot about those on some of these shows, and the is it the Environmental Working Group, EWG?
Yes.
Right? And that they have great lists of, what to keep your eye on in terms of products that you're putting in your body. Is there one or two product lines that you usually recommend are sort of safe, that people can go to, or do you like go one by one with what's in our with what lotions and potions I'm putting on my body and in my hair?
Yeah, no, I mean, first it's like, before we change something, let's make sure that, there might, that what you're using isn't the best option. And so then from there, I do agree. EWG has such great resources, both for products, makeup and other products, but also for nutrition. The Dirty Dozen list that they put out every year, that's so important. So
helpful.
Yeah, when we talk about, eating for your fertility, one of the things we, also include when we talk about environmental toxins is eating organic. And so while that can be very expensive and limiting to some people, having this list of, 12 items in the fruit and vegetable corridor that, would be ideal to get, or if you could, in the organic form versus conventional, then that's a great place to start, at least. So, you're making some impact in areas where you can.
Agreed. I've been buying organic for a really long time, and certainly if I can peel it, I'm less concerned. If I can peel something, I'm okay with choosing conventional bananas than a regular banana.
Absolutely.
or conventional versus organic, just because I can peel it. But if I can't peel it, I definitely want organic. Yes, right. Absolutely. What's your number one self-care tip for both men and women?
Ooh, number one. Well, we sort of talked a little bit about it, but I would have to say, be kind to yourself. Stop beating yourself up. Instead of letting these feelings of, guilt and shame overwhelm you, look at how hard you're working for this. A true warrior. It's all about your mindset and putting that spin. I'm a big believer in making lists. You can ask anybody that knows me. But I do feel like lists help when you're in the thick of it and you're frustrated and you're just not sure how to get yourself out of a funk and you don't know what self-care, activity is going to make you feel better. If you pull out your handy dandy list with 10 or 15 things that you enjoy doing just for you, that are going to improve your mood and mindset and give you some positive feelings, then it's such a helpful thing to have. So whether it's sipping tea on your porch, listening to your favorite playlist in 3-day-old sweatpants, or, giving yourself a much needed manicure. I hope we can't see my hands. Indulging in a food you've been denying yourself, and these are, off the wall things. You can go to an archery range if you need a little bit more, excitement in your life.
That's great.
But, any of these things that basically they calm the negative thoughts and they let you feel at peace and just allow some happiness to seep in. It's so important.
I love that. I think everybody needs a Lauren. Everybody needs I need a Lauren.
I need one too.
Right? We all do. It's like, get rid of your negative talk on the one shoulder and put Lauren on the other side. Because it is so true. And I think with how isolated we've had to be this year with all the extra stresses we weren't expecting and couldn't have ever truly anticipated, right? This year has been, 3 Hollywood scripts all scrunched into one bad movie that doesn't ever seem to end. And that be kind to yourself, I think, is such a beautiful take-home message. And right now, when we know that the same number of patients desire family, desire to have a baby, desire for that relationship as before COVID, as they do now, we know this, and we know that there's things that they can do proactively while they're exploring fertility treatment, or trying to optimize for unassisted conception. So we will include Embrace Fertility's links in all of our documentation on this video, whether you find it on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, or you find us on social media. We'll make sure that we can connect you to Lauren. She is available to answer questions on the Fertility Answers app. You can also request a consult with her from the app itself. Lauren, thank you so much for giving of your time and your heart to all these fertility patients. You've created a wonderful program, and it's much needed, like I said, for people's whole life, not just for achieving that happy ending of a baby.
Oh, well, thank you again for having me. I just want to, leave with one more saying that everybody's heard a million times. You're not alone. We're all in this together. And there are so many reproductive health professionals and other fertility warriors that are basically, ready and willing to support you. So, ask for help when you need it. And, that's all I wanted to make sure you leave with is, that you've got other people out there. And I love the fact that, Fertility Answers is making this platform available to so many. So thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time. You can find Lauren and myself on the Fertility Answers app, both iOS and Android, or at fertility.medanswers.com. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you.